everyone. I'm Prue. I'm a conservation scientist, and it's going to be a little bit different, my talk to Mark's. Mark is great at the high level, creating the market to really get businesses to understand biodiversity. I'm coming at this from the other angle. I'm a conservation scientist, and I'm really interested in how we can measure, evaluate, and understand the natural environment. And I'm really interested in taking what we've learnt from conservation that it's traditionally been used with government agencies and bringing that to business. So, as we all know, the natural world is an amazing place, but biodiversity is declining. And it's really eroding away the resilience of our ecosystems, but also societies and economies. Now, in response to this global challenge, conservation science has emerged a few decades ago, really, to try and measure, understand, and inform the management of the natural environment. This has traditionally really occurred with government agencies and NGOs. Some examples of where conservation science, Mark has already given away one of my examples, the Great Barrier Reef, but conservation science was used to develop models and decision-making processes to inform how to set up one of the world's largest marine protected areas around the Great Barrier Reef to not only protect biodiversity, but to allow for multiple other uses, human uses as well. Conservation science has also been used in Yellowstone National Park to inform the adaptive management of that natural system and actually reintroducing the apex predators, wolves, into that system. So conservation science has allowed us to play with data, monitor the environment, but then use models to interpret and understand the natural environment, and then inform how we can actually protect the things that we really value in these natural systems. There are a range of other examples where conservation science has been used to inform the reintroduction and re-establishment of threatened species and the protection of species. But I'm not trying to paint an absolutely perfect picture here. There are a lot of failures as well, where we've observed, we've just monitored. We've been very good at monitoring in conservation science. We've just monitored things declining. We've watched species go extinct in front of us, and we haven't put in place things to, management actions to actually intervene in those systems and protect the things that we most value. So to me, conservation science represents a series of tools, really, and processes that can help inform the management of our natural environment. And these stem from protected areas, from protecting biodiversity, all the way through to conserving biodiversity and balancing that with sustainable development, for example, through to even trading nature. So this set of tools have been used for a very long time with government agencies, and we've refined these. We've got a number of systems in place, like management effectiveness evaluation, which is now used in many protected areas, hundreds and thousands of protected areas around the world, to actually inform protected area managers how to manage their protected areas, how to maintain biodiversity within those protected areas. And the tools that exist are both qualitative and quantitative modelling approaches that can help us interpret information, bring in stakeholder values, and inform management decisions. Conservation scientists shouldn't make management decisions. We bring the tools and processes to help inform management. And I think that there is a lot in these tools and approaches that can be connected with the business and biodiversity space. And the reason that I think this is because we know that businesses have a lot of trouble thinking about biodiversity, like Mark has just said, but even the more the really technical details of how, as a business, do we measure, evaluate and report on our biodiversity performance. Businesses face challenges around measurement, indicators. What indicator do we use? This is the biggest, such a big topic of conversation at the moment. Businesses seem to be seeking a single indicator for biodiversity. I think that's quite unlikely to ever happen. But what we have in conservation science is full processes to help businesses truly understand how they interact with the environment and actually incorporate the bits of biodiversity that are most fundamental to their business and the bits that they really want to influence to inform their management actions and improve biodiversity, improve business operations. They face challenges around scalability. A lot of companies want to not only understand local impacts and local dependencies and get a picture to manage on the ground, but also would like to have a picture at the corporate scale of how they're going with their biodiversity performance. And of course, there's uncertainty. Natural systems are variable and uncertain things. How can a business incorporate that into their accounting of their biodiversity performance? So these are all big, big challenges that businesses face, and I think conservation science can help. Conservation science tools and approaches exist that can really help businesses think more clearly around what their corporate biodiversity goals are. What do they want to achieve for biodiversity? The first thing that any organisation, whether it be a government agency, NGO or business, is to actually set out what you want to achieve for biodiversity. We have tools that can help with that. We also have tools that can help businesses really understand, sit down and really think about how they interact with the environment and what are the levers that they can pull to help not only protect biodiversity, but even enhance biodiversity in areas to improve their business operations. The big topic, biodiversity metrics. Conservation science, we have a range of tools and approaches that can help develop metrics that are fit for purpose for business use. These are not about just pulling an off-the-shelf published tool or metric and throwing it to a business and saying, here you go, use this. These metrics need to be sensitive to a business and need to actually show change in business operations and biodiversity performance. We have tools that can help that. And of course, I mean, the most important thing, we all know biodiversity is declining. We need tools to help businesses think through what can we do? What could we do to change our activities that could have a positive influence on biodiversity? We don't necessarily know the answer, so this is about predictive science and using predictive models to inform business activities and embed that within maybe adaptive management frameworks to actually test. This is what we do in protected areas. We adaptively manage. We don't know the answer to all of our questions about how to manage the natural environment. So we have adaptive management systems to trial new techniques, new management actions, and actually evaluate whether they work, and if they don't, we alter those. So my work, I'm a NERC Knowledge Exchange Fellow, and I've been working for 2 years on this topic of business and biodiversity and bringing conservation science to the business and biodiversity arena. So I work with a range of NGOs, government agencies and businesses and universities to help try and bring the message that conservation science, the discipline, can help businesses. I think I've got a couple of minutes. So some of the projects that I've been working on, you'll hear about this soon with Tom Smith, but basically I'm working with the Joint Nature Conservation Committee. They're really interested in how we actually engage as in a policy setting, how do we engage the private sector in biodiversity conservation? So we're looking at how we can use the Sustainable Development Goals to help guide business objective setting and actions for biodiversity. I'm also working with BP. I'm helping bring a very specific part of conservation science around no net loss and biodiversity offsetting. What is the latest scientific thinking around that? What are the many caveats to the mitigation hierarchy and using biodiversity offsetting as a tool for businesses? I'm bringing those lessons to BP to help them think more critically about what their corporate biodiversity goals should be and how they could actually implement some of the lessons of no net loss of biodiversity within their own management policies. And then finally, I'm really pleased to announce that I've got this project with the IUCN. We're really interested in this conversation around biodiversity metrics for business, and we think that there's a lot of confusion around the discussions at the moment. There seems to be an immediate leap to existing tools or existing, what can we use that's already exists that businesses could just adopt? We think that there's a big muddle around why biodiversity indicators are even needed by business and the range of applications that there actually are to use biodiversity information by business. So we're hoping to untangle that full spectrum of actions and activities where biodiversity indicators could be used by business. to really illustrate that you need to clarify both the purpose of using a biodiversity indicator for business. What do you want to know about biodiversity, and what actions is that going to influence? What audience is that intended for, and what spatial and temporal scale do you need to assess biodiversity? All those questions are critical to actually develop a biodiversity indicator that is fit for purpose for business use. So those are just a few of the examples of the work that I'm doing. That's funded by NERC. I'm very lucky. The Natural Environment Research Council are really interested in working out ways to engage the business community around environmental topics. So yeah, that's the work that I'm doing, and I'm really pleased that there are people like Mark, because I have to be quite honest, it is actually really hard as a technical specialist to just jump in and start talking to businesses. So we need an enabling environment that helps draw in the expertise. As academics on our own, it's very hard to get into a boardroom and just convince a business why biodiversity is important. So this is, as this today will really demonstrate, there's a whole community that needs to really get together, band together to work on this, to actually help integrate biodiversity into business. Thank you.